Aloha. This is going to be a little rather longer session, so I'm going to be doing a couple different things. I'm going to be playing some things you're always going to keep on the video, and then some things you're probably going to want to watch on the side on your own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play all of the example lessons in the beginning, so you see what we're working with, and then I'm going to touch base on all those throughout the video. So when you see one example, you could go later in the video and know kind of pin mark where it is around the 2-minute mark, 3-minute mark, 15-minute mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through this session the way I would explain how this instrument, I see it. E, A, D, G, B, E. What happens when I do spider exercises every morning? I influence my fingers to stay near the fretboard. So when I do them, I put my first finger on the F note, I go to the F sharp, the G, then the G sharp. At this point, I've already gone through the 1, 2, 3, 4. With my right hand, I take this pick, and instead of having it pointing out here, I take it like this. Remember that old Man of War thing where you grab hands and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a thumb war? Well, the idea is you put the pick kind of down right where you would try and grab your opponent's thumb, yeah? And it sticks out a little bit. You're going to be going down, up, down, up, down, up. But when you've done all these down, up, you switch around and do up, down, or just down, down, or up. Then you look up economy picking, which is going to be like a down, up, or a up, down. That helps when you get into these scales for ease of where you are with the strings. And it'll all make sense later, but trust in me, all these lessons platforms. So lesson 1 is going to be this. See how I'm using the tip top of my fingers? I'm not using the flat part of my fingers to mute anything. I'm keeping each note at the top of my fingers, and I'm keeping my fingers as close to the fretboard as I possibly can. And I'm just going up and down from 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. On this right hand, I'm doing up, down. See how the arm kind of here fluctuates on the right hand? That my whole wrist isn't moving with the motion of what you would think rhythm would be. It's just the down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. So what happens after a period of time? You develop your own. But I would say with the set 1 through 4 until you can easily go up through them and hear like 1, 4, 2, 3. What I mean by 1, 4, 2, 3 is fret 1, fret 4, fret 2, fret 3. Don't move your fingers around, keep each finger this. So when you move up to this fret and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, your next fret that you're automatically going to want to go to is a movement where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slide your first finger up to the 5th fret. Same with every fret, all right? Lesson 1 moves through that, so when you move that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it starts again. So let's say I just got through the whole thing and I got done going all the way up. Now I'm coming down. See how I just switched the positioning? Now I'm going up higher with these notes. Still doing the up, down, on the right hand. And this goes all the way through, and then I could even build it all the way up again. These are called diatonic chromatic finger exercises, or spiders as I like to just nickname them, spideys. What this will do will get all your hands very warmed up in the morning. So if you could switch that and remember that your first finger slides up to here, that's going to prepare us and you for the next lesson, which basically is using chords to shape pentatonics. Pentatonics are the outside, the exoskeleton, if you will. All the other junk of every possible note that's in it is what we're playing right now as the exercise. Eventually, when we get into lesson 3 here, you'll see why the scales are important to know where the fingers go. All right? Lesson 2, take every chord that you have and put these chords, D, what kind is it? D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Take all these chords and learn how to play them differently. So D becomes this D, E becomes this E, F, you can play up here, or you could double back and take this, right? And what happens is when you take the notes back from the F major, and then you add, like, let's say the minor third, or the major third, you get different formations of chords, which leads you to believe that when you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that calls out your chord. So lesson 2 is learning how to play each chord you know, like the A major, with all different fingers. Not so much the pinky, but the more you do with the pinky, the stronger it gets. You're going to keep flat notes flat. So an A major is a flat note. So when you scoot the A with your third finger up to the B flat, and hold this in and mute the bottom 6th string and play the 5th string with the B flat, and the B and the C and the C sharp and the D. Thusly, you're learning how to play the chord in 1 or 2 different ways. You can either play like this, you can play like this, you can play like this. I wouldn't recommend this latter because you're skipping a fret. You don't want to do that. You want to make your fingers nice and comfortable. So when you scoot this A major around and you find the B flat and the B and the C and the C sharp and the D, those are meant to show you the cage system of how A flat, when A is flat up here and held down at the 5th fret up above, you get a D major. Same as that one. If you call out the notes, you still have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So if we start in D and we know, lesson 6 by the way is circle fifths. If we start in D and we know that as 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp, you can count those chords in as D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So what we're seeing here is seeing D, E, F sharp, G, and A. I get rid of my 2 and my 4 and I'm left with my 3 notes, my tones if you will, my D tone, my F sharp tone, and my A tone. When I put those together, they make a triad. 3 notes, 3 tones, they're harmonizing with themselves. Thusly, they make a D major. So if you play your D major this way, or you play your D major this way, what happens is your fingers become used to playing both. What I can tell you is if you know a D major and you know a D minor, and you know that by flattening the median, the 3rd step, which means in D, you flatten that F sharp to an F. This is an F sharp. When it goes to an F, you have to move your fingers. Yeah? So what happens is, if you play your D minor, your D major with your 2nd fingering by doing the teeter-totter method, taking off your 1st finger, putting your 2nd finger where your 1st finger was, putting your 3rd finger where your 2nd finger was, and then bringing the pinky onto the fretboard, you realize that D major can be played this way. If you cover that, you can play it this way. Cover that, you can play it this way. Long story short, as long as those notes are there and you feel comfortable, do it. What you'll notice is your fingers get lined up due to the spider exercises exactly where it feels comfortable, and it won't second guess it. There's only 2 variations where out of the 73 something odd chords that we can play together in the triads, where the formation of it just won't work. However, stumbling upon those, I hope you do, and I hope you call them out, put them in the comment section. Long story short, when you and I are playing this, we're going to be looking at our D major one way and D major another way. When I say 2nd fingering, you will automatically think teeter-totter method, all right? So go through all of your chords. I'm going to put those just in a minute when we describe this in its entirety. And then lesson 3 is being able to play a C major, making sure we're in tune, and then being able to play your C, open D, E at the 2nd fret using the 2nd finger, 3rd finger goes to the F, open G, A on the 2nd fret because we're doing our spider exercise and the A feels comfortable, B is going to be open, then C, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and backwards. Once we have that, we realize I started that with the 3rd finger. What I want you to do is move your fingering up and start that same do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do with your 2nd finger rather than your 3rd. You'll notice that it omits the 1st fret and the open strings, giving you thusly C on the 3rd fret, D on the 5th fret, E on the 2nd fret with your 1st finger, which is already lined up. What you're noticing is we have switched our spider exercise over to right here, and the notes that just happen to be inside of this notes aren't correlating to half step, half step, half step, half step, half step, half step, half step to infinitum. They're actually correlating to Ionian mode, which is the 1st scale everyone learns. We're learning it now, major. We have a whole step from C to D. We have a whole step from D to E. We have a half step from E to F. So on the first one, you're playing with these 2 fingers. On the second one, when you do your 2nd finger leading the pack at C, we're going to skip our 3rd finger, use our pinky to hit the 5th fret for C, D, that's our whole step. D will go to E, that's a whole step, but we're not sliding around. We're just staying within these couple frets. So what happens is we play C, D, E, F, there's our half step, F, G, A, B, C, giving us a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. 2 whole steps and a half step, 3 whole steps and a half step. That's a major. No matter where you do it, you don't even need to know the notes. But when you learn these finger patterns, they move everywhere. So the first one is this. C, open D, E, F, open G, A, open B, C. Next one is the same thing, but we're omitting one in open. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The next one, guess what? We omit the second finger, we start with the first finger. Thusly, we get rid of the second, first, and open strings, and we use the third string. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And what we've done here is we've taken these 3 examples. 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5. That's starting with the first finger. Starting with the second finger, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5. And then the last one being third finger, third fret, open, 2, 3, open, 2, open, 1. All of these are the same chord, but what you're doing is you're playing the phrasings with different fingers. That third phrasing, well, let's say I started in G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And that's the third scale. Now here's the second one. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G. What we did here is we've taken the different types of scales and we've combined them. So, practice those every day. And when you practice them, play them with rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 1, 6, 7, 1, 7, 1. See how I move that up? 7, 1, 2, 7, 1, 2, 1. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No matter what your variation is, make sure you get all the variations. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. What this does is it shows you what a minor second is. Shows you what a major second is. Shows you what a fourth is, or a minor third, or a major fourth, or a flat 5, or a 6. In correlation on one note, we tried doing that, but the idea is when you move them up, you could go up all the notes. So on and so forth. Pick one string to go with, and here where all your whole step, half steps, whole steps, whole step, half steps are. Getting into that, I'll get back to this in the later part of this video to explain the modal theory behind that in short, but it is something you're going to want to Google and print out something so you can look at it in correlation with your circle of fifths. Thusly brings me to the circle of fifths. I use my fingers because it's the easiest, best way to go about it, but when we think about it, you could think in threes. If you remember, there is no H in our alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If I wanted to know how many sharps or flats are in something, all I have to do is think of a simple method. Memorize 2 things and work from there. What happens is repetition over and over and over again is practicing the practice of practice. So I know that in a C major, it's a C, E, and a G. In a G major, it's a G, or in an E major, it's a E, G sharp, and a B. What happens when I go through these is in my head, I think 3 steps away. So when I have a C major and I go to a C sharp, that's a minor second and a half step. If I wanted to go a major second, I would be going from C, passing C sharp, and going to D, hypothetically a whole note away. If I wanted to go up a minor third, I would go to that E flat. So I'd have C, past the C sharp, D to the E flat, not going to the E. What happens is E to F has no black key. Thusly, what we do is we try and think about where keys are in correlation to what they would feel like playing the triad on our instrument and what it looks like to sight read it. Now when we look at the grand staff, we'll have these ledger lines below, and we'll have the staff lines, and we'll have ledger lines above. The weird part about reading is that the common ground for all of these is going to be the note C. It's on the ledger line just below the normal treble clef, which is the G clef. The next clef below that is the B clef. Sometimes you have in the alto and tenor clefs, but not often. What happens when we go through these, we just think C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, go in order, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If I said, what's my 7th note in a C major scale, you would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So what happens is when we take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get rid of 2 and 4, and we're left with 1, 3, and 5, that's our triad. When we play a C major, we hear, but when we play, it's 4, 6 strings, 3 things are being pressed down. They repeat themselves. That's why. You're playing a low C, a high C. In there, you've got a G note and you've got an E note on both sides. It's full. That's why there are bass note chords. When you start having deviations and you take the intervals and you move them, let's say you've got C, E, and G skipping the spaces here, and you move the C all the way up top, you still have a triad up here, but the note you did have now doesn't have a tone. You're replacing it up here. What happens when you have triads and you put another tone that's in the scale, like in C major we put the B, that becomes something called a 7th chord, which means we've got the regular C major, but when we influence another note besides those 3 notes, C, E, and G, we get a altered chord. In this case, that alteration isn't outward, it's actually inward. The 7th is a lending tone, a leading tone, which means when I play something like C, F, 1, 4, 5, G, if I go to like an E, E7 there, it's got my 7. I used another chord from another relationship, and now from that E7 I can move into anything that's relative to E, like an A, I can move into a B, I can move into an F sharp minor if I wanted to, but that's a little bit more theory and yodel. But here is the way that you find everything. Sit down with a piece of paper and your instrument and write C, and then write out all the notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Then put C sharp, then D, then D sharp, then E, then all the way through. And then you'll notice that C sharp is D flat, and you'll notice that E sharp is F, and F flat is E, like we were talking about, the mind blower. What happens when you do that and you look at it visually, you see correlations of where the notes line up. And what I'd like to say is the easiest way to find out what your triads are, let's say it's in the key of A, and you did not know that there are 3 sharps in the key of A. You would say there are no sharps in C. You just know that. C, no sharps. F and A. F and A. F and A. If you want to, those are relative, and I'll tell you why. When you have C, and there are no sharps and no flats, the first sharp that you always add in correlation is going to be F. It makes F in every key an F sharp. So in C, C, D, E, F sharp becomes a different mode. That's later. But as far as right now, when you're practicing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and you see your C, D, E, F, and you notice your F, know that when we move from C into any other chord, that F is generally going to be altered. So do a correspondence, which is why we call this the circle of fifths. So in the key of C, no sharps, no flats. How do I know what has the first sharp and how to do it on here? Well, I just said F's going to be the first one. The first key to have that F is going to be G. And the reason why is I can go C, D, E, F, G, circle of fifths. That G that I now play has all the same characters in the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, except the F is sharpened from G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's a mixolydian mode, which will make sense in a little bit when I describe what the other side of your 7th chords are. G major is a whole step from G to A to B, half step from B to C, C to D is a whole step, D to E is a whole step, then a whole step, because we have to have 3 whole steps, goes E to F sharp. See the reason why F sharp has to be in the key of G and F sharp resolves to G, because it's the black note right before it falls onto there. So what happens is, when we use our 7th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, resolves to the 1, which is amazing because you lead with that note or lend it or you move or resolve. It's amazing. So you have 2 different types of 7 notes. You've got a diminished and a dominant. What you'll hear in most blues is a dominant, meaning there's a whole tone in between the 7th note and the resolve, the 1, which means the pull for the air is a little bit further away than the T-do. It's actually a T-do, which is a whole step away. So in the key of G, that F sharp would have been a half step away from G. If I wanted to have a whole step away, that F sharp would now be an F. Reason being, that now became a new mode, which I'll explain later in this video. What I have now for you is this. When we go through these chords, lesson 1, the spider exercises, lesson 2, taking all of your notes and playing them with different formulations to get different chords. Is playing the chord and influencing the 3rd over the top. So when you go through all these different ones and you see how all the different scales lead together, and this is your major practice, practicing the practice of practice, the next logical step is to hear that those notes, when you play them over these certain major tones for the 1 in the key of C, and then C goes to a minor, D minor, then it goes to its 3rd E minor, then it goes to the major 4th after E is an F, a major 5th after F is a G, because we have a whole step. Here's another whole step, but it's a minor to an A minor. Here comes our whole step to a B, but it's the B diminished, because in a major chord, the 7th note is always a diminished to resolve. Hear how that feels? So no matter what key you're doing it, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, diminished, G. No matter what key you're in, that will always be the cadence. Here's where the circle of fifths works well once you know your triads. If I know I'm playing a C, E, and a G, and then my next chord goes to a 5, so I've got a 1, 5. Let's say I went 1, 5, 6. It would be in the key of C, C, G, C, D, E, F, G, A. I know the 6th is an A minor, so 1, 5, 6. What happens is you tend to notice notes that are in the C, notes that are in the A minor, and notes that are in the G together that you can always play. All the notes that I was in there kind of struggling through there, but there were no real wrong notes because every note was in there. It was just the timing and the phrasing of what I chose was bad because I wasn't prepared to solo over it. I need to practice the practice of practicing. But if I had in the background this, what I would do is look at my guitar like, well, I know this is C, I know this is C, and I know that this is my G up here, and I know that this is my A minor. So I would devise something like a... and use it, which is like a micro blues minor. That's a type of modal scale. So here's what I want to get into with that. When we played these chords and we looked at the outside, the exoskeletons, these pentatonics are made up of 5 notes. When you have these 5 notes together, you're going to be able to influence tone. What I would like you to do is Google pentatonic scales and just start off with basic A major and A minor pentatonics. It will make sense when you correlate that with your Spidey method. Here's what it will look like. Two of those can be done in every key. That type of mobility and fluidity comes from the up and down lessons and moving through the spider exercises. So at this point, being able to say C, D, E, F, G, G has 1 sharp, it's F sharp. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, G, A, B, C, D. D as the next sharp. How do I know what the next sharp is after F? Oh, well, add 5 to F. F, G, A, B, C. So now D has 2 sharps. One is F sharp and one C sharp. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Still the same because I have whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. In that example, if I had D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, that means I would have whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, which isn't a major scale. That's a Mixolydian mode, which brings me to my next point. When you have whole step, half step, whole step, half step, and you take away the first whole step from the front and put it on the back, it will create your next modal structure. Those modal structures in order are major, Ionian, Dorian, which is a minor fluence, Phrygian, another minor, Lydian, it is a major with a raised fourth. Our Mixolydian, it is a major with a flat 7. Our Aeolian, it is a minor influence with a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. There are many other modes in minor Aeolian, but that is for another lesson. And then our 7th is going to be a diminished tone. When we used our diminished tone, you could use a couple different modal structures. The best ones that I find using are something called a half whole or a whole half. You can also use the augmented movement, which is more a music theory thing for Aeolian, but that consists of just whole tones. So if I was in A minor playing doing a half step down, I could do a to B, B to C sharp to E flat to F, F to G, G to A, and it goes up just in whole steps. It always sounds really good over the top of those things. The other one that I was talking about for the modal structure for the 7th phrasing would be let's start in A as well. A whole step, so A to B, and then a half step, B to C, and then a whole step, and then a half step, and then a whole step, then a half step. If you did these in order, it would look like this, moving up the melodies. You can do them anywhere. I find to use these when somebody's doing like some sort of move down in that nature. The other one is the opposite of that. Instead of doing a whole step, half step, you do a half step, whole step. Hear how that's a very distinctive sound? That works perfect over something which builds tension in the first place. So when we move through these, Ionian's going to be over your majors, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Dorian is going to utilize the flat 6. So we have a... You can float around the 6, that's why Dorian's great. Still has a minor feeling, but you can go flat or sharp. Our next one's gonna be Phrygian. When we start on we get rid of the C and the D, and we start on the E, and we just follow the C major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but we omit C and D, and we go do, 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 do. When we play that over something minory, it sounds super minory. Check out C Phrygian, do, do, do. These half step bends that start right at your first one. So instead of having whole step, half step, it has half step, whole step. Yeah, fun. So it has half step, whole step, half step, whole step, which is completely weird. So the next one's Lydian. You'll know this as being Simpsons, like what is it? The reason why, it has a C major, D major, E major, and then a F sharp. So we've got a C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. It just raises that fourth. In D, we'd have D, E, F sharp, and then having G, we'd have G sharp. See how that moves? That's Lydian. Mixolydian is our next. We have a major scale, which would be like our first one, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But when we drop the whole step, half step, whole step, we basically get this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, start on the G. Still majory, but it has that flat seventh. If I were to play a Mixolydian in the key of G, it would have an F. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Allman Brothers use this a lot. Hear that note I was playing? That's what we call the dominant seventh, and I'll get to that right after this. What happens with the dominant seventh is I could use those blues pentatonics, and I could also use the major pentatonics as well. Here I went from the A to the G. That G can incorporate the G7 in there as well. So what happens when we have any major chord and we take the root and go down, generally the high root, not the low root. In the case of the D major, the D's right here. Here's an A, here's the F sharp. When we move D major to D minor, it's clear, we move the median. 1, 2, 3. But what happens when we take that chordal structure, we don't do a sus, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, D sus 4, or a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, D sus 2. That open E is over the top of it. You have D, A, and E now. What happens when we don't influence that, but we move the D down to a C sharp? We get a D major 7. That's a half step away. Then we have a whole step away from the D, C sharp, C, which makes a D dominant 7. You can play that backwards triangle anywhere to get that tone. When I say backwards triangle, I mean you put bookends like this on like on G7 would be G here, B here, and then wrapping it right up there with my F. Yeah? So remember when I had do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that would be a G major 7. So we'd have a... And if I wanted to have a G dominant 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See how the Mixolydian mode works very well over that? The next mode is going to be Aeolian. As I said, it has a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. In the key of A, it would look like this. A to B is a whole step. B to C is a half step. There's my flat 3. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half step. F to G is a whole step. And then G to A is a whole step. Thusly giving me my 1, 2, flat 3, flat 6, flat 5. Sorry, flat 7. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. There is another way to look at modal structures for the sixth pattern, but it works with doing the whole step, half step, whole step, half step. When you get rid of that, you basically are cutting that out and you're doing your whole step between A and B, half step between B and C, your whole step C to D, whole step D to E, half step from E to F, and then wrapping it up with a whole step from the F back, the G to the A. Okay, so when you do these modes, just like you do the scales for do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, you just do them all. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then you do the threes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, over and over, and then you do 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 4, 6. And what happens is you notice that your fingers will land on different strings, which make it harder to switch that same finger back to another string to go. And what happens is you revert back to your 3 scales. The one with the third finger leading, one with the second finger, one with the first finger. If you find one of your scales does not work by going, how about Lydian? You can find yourself being, or how about just you can find yourself playing that same scale right from your starting root. See this, all my fingers moving in correlation along the lines of, if you start the note with your second finger, you now realize that your pattern position only falls, if I start on the 9th fret, my pattern position falls between the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th fret. That's it. If you wanted it to start from the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, you don't start with the second finger for that scale pattern. You start with the first. Practicing the practice of practice takes these chords, takes these scales, and takes these concepts to the next level, unto which melodies are derived out of those practices. And when you hear your favorite music, like let's say mine would be like Dizzy Gillespie, Night Tunisia. Those chords, I know the starting chord, and then that tone I hear. Kind of close, and I can hone it in when I hear the full chord, because I hear that note, and that is a very diminished. But that diminished in that chord leads me to say one other musical theory thing, which might weird you out or blow your mind, but a major is a major, and a major can also be a major seventh by taking that C major and flattening the C down a half step, right? So now we have a C major 7. If I influence that same C major without the root and I influence it with the third, I now get a minor. So my relative minor to my C major would be my E minor. See how that works? So when I said to you when I met you, everything's in the key of C, it quite literally is. I could figure out a way to rap every song back to C. What we've covered thus far is being able to take all of your chords, play them in a different fashion from lesson 2, being able to do spider exercises and work these up, and then become fluid enough to be able to go 1 1 4 4 1 1 4 4 1 2 3, or mindless movements that your brain tell you to do in real time. So when you get to a song like, I could hear, see how I'm fluidly moving with the, when it goes into the, there's a D, G, G minor 7, 6, to C major 7, down to F, back into it. So when I hear those chords, I've already learned as being a cage system chord, the minor relative. And when you see something other than the open strings, you start seeing that your scales, practicing the practice of practice is how you become fluid modally and with note choices. Then the next step, my friend, is to get a guitar teacher, pick up another instrument which will influence, like the ukulele you said you play. If you're playing the ukulele, this is the top 4 strings of that guitar, just in a little different tuning. Your D major is now a G major on this. Your A minor is now, if you're doing an A minor, is now a D minor on the ukulele. So the concepts still fit. It's just you have a different strumming kind of feel, but you still use the different type of rhythms that we learned with this. So what I'm going to show you is how to play an E major and use the different strumming patterns, and this is how you're going to play all of your lesson 2s. Ready? Here's a D major or an E major, either one. How about a D major? We're going to play a whole tone. I'm going to get an attack on the 1, and then the and, 2, and 3, and 4, and are all the time in the world that you're going to take to change your fingering pattern from position 1, teeter-totter, to position 2. And what happens is you get quite efficient at going 1, keep that right hand going, and then you put your fingers down, and then you attack on the 1, and then you switch. So I'm going to be blatantly weird about this and go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Hear how the and is crazy? That's when your fingers should be switching. Inevitably, when you hit the whole notes and you're able to do 1 and dissipation of these notes to this tone and to this, and keep going through them, then you move on to half notes. Half notes have half the amount of time that the whole note had. The whole note had 4 beats. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and with half notes, I'm attacking on the every other one. So if I had 4, I'd have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And then next move on to the quarters, which means every time you go downstroke and then upstroke, or just downstroke here, you're switching your fingers, right? Thusly making you a little faster at playing the chords you already know. And then 8th notes is doubling that. And then 16th notes is doubling that. 16 notes might be impossible depending on how fast you start on your whole notes. The slower the better. Get yourself a metronome, play all of your majors, turn them into minors. Be able to go through this and then pick one jazz song and learn it. Pick one band you really like, any song that they have, and learn it, and then show it to somebody. And then get a teacher and go through all these motions. And what I can guarantee you is after a period of doing this for 5 minutes every day, wake up, do the spider exercises, get all the way through that, come all the way down, take the chords that you're working on, like the E major, to a secondary E major, and then move that up to an F major, get your bar chord. Work on playing all your G's, and then pick a finger playing exercise. Thumb should be controlling the E and the A, which is the 6 and the 5. All the other fingers control the other 4. So when you're doing something like Dust in the Wind, C major 7, C major sus, C major, A minor sus, A major sus, A minor 7 sus, C major sus. You're doing a my thumb is playing the E and the A, and everything else is doing this kind of rhythm pattern over here, keeping that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So finger style, the things that get a little bit faster at that, get rid of the pick and start thinking of this as being these two played by the thumb and relatively the D sometimes, but being able to go from E8, E, T, E, G, E, B, E with every finger. So a practice like this. If you don't want to hear them, play a chord. Then when you get done with the first finger, do the second finger. That'll teach you how to do the spacing between each one of those and get the actual micrometer between here, so it's second nature. Another thing is know your instrument. I know that when I smack my hand up against the dreadnought here and I put down my finger, I can make an E flat. Not an E, which means if I'm in a hurry and I want to do, I need to do it all the way up here and double back because I know where that E is. I don't generally just do this, but in E flat, if I went, it would be perfect. So know physically where you are. Also, doesn't hurt to think about where your thumb is. You don't want to be strangling the neck of this. The thumb should be on the back right in the middle or slightly underneath. Everything that we go through in these processes to find out how to play a little bit better and a little bit smoother comes from trying to put together patterns. So the patterns that I've given you should correlate to finger exercises. What you'll notice at a period of time is that you've become faster at playing your scales. The melodies that used to baffle you are no longer baffling. They actually have, I guess they have a little rhyme and reason to them. Another good thing is to go and get a book. I would suggest Hal Leonard, and pick out parts of the book and try and master everything. Look at the notes, play the CD if they have it, the radio example. What happens is when you start hearing these and you put this together, it leads to where all this accumulates. And where it accumulates is knowing that when I play a C major and a G major and an A minor and an E minor, if I wanted to play that same thing, C, G, A, E, I can move that in my mind and think I would have a D, I would have an A, I would have a B minor, and I would have F sharp minor. So if I'm capable of thinking on the fly of you can feasibly see where I'm going with this. If you hear something, you're able to play it in real time. And the beauty and the magic of music that I love to see, the aha moments, they do come from doing what I've shown you how to do. 5 minutes a day is what you do. I play for about 2 hours a day, and I have for about 5.5 years. And I realized that was the ticket to being able to do what I do as far as like playing. But I shoved it all into a small period. If you expand that period, your fingers have a lot more time to adjust. The concepts you're learning also do, and you start to see music differently. So if I was to explain to you Van Morrison, key of A, 1, 2, 3, goes to its minor third, to its major fourth, back to its 1. So we've got A major, C sharp minor, 4, and then to major fifth, to the E. A major, C sharp minor, to the major fourth, the D, back to A. Here's where I influence the 7th. A. Ooh, no, sorry. Those were very notey, very over the top, too much, but it did influence the Aeolian, or the A major Ionian, the C sharp minor Aeolian, the D major Mixolydian, and then the E major pentatonic. If I were to switch up some of that, I could have an A where I'm doing like a half-step blues thing. So here's my third, my C sharp. But instead of hitting my C sharp directly, I do a C into a C sharp. And then come up to my next relative note, which is my E, a fifth away. So when I have my E to A, I'm doing I'm still moving the melody. So you can take, that is a top end arpeggio. Just moving with those intervals. What happens is when you see this chord as being your A minor from your secondary fingering, A minor, B flat minor, B minor, C sharp minor, you combine that with the outward pentatonic and then your new pentatonic of where you want to go, music evolves. Because if you've done the back work, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, 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 do, or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Knowing that you could play Lydian with the raised fourth, or Mixolydian with the flat 7th, or just Ionian major with the 7th half step, means you constructively know the difference between major and minor. Being able to play A major, A minor, everywhere, in all different ways, and then influence it. Being able to influence the notes and what you hear inside your head comes from seeing these chord structures. So work on triads by playing your chords every single way. When you get every single one of your chords, find all of your sus chords. So C sus 2. You can only have 2 sus chords, the 2 or the 4, which makes it like a 9th or an 11th. You know what I mean? Because C, D is 2. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Well, that's 9 notes. So it is their 9th, but it's called a sus chord. So a C sus 2 would influence what? C, D. So if I have C major and I'm playing C, E, and G, and I get rid of that E and I play a D, that's a form of C sus 2. If I'm playing that E major and I know that this note right here is my D note, and that's what I want to play, I influence my C major triad for having a C sus 2. In the key is C. What would a C sus 4 be? C, D, E, F. C is fun because it has no sharps and no flats. But how about G major, where we have a 7? Or how about not G major? How about B major? B major has 5 sharps. How do I know that? C has none. C, D, E, F, G. G has 1. It's F sharp. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. If I had 2, I'd be G, A, B, C, D. D has 2 sharps. One's F. How do I know the next one? F, G, A, B, C. Cool. F and C. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. How do I know my next sharp? Well, it was D. D, E, F, G, A. Oh, A has 3. One's F, one's C. What's the next one? C, D, E, F, G. Oh, I have C, F, C, and G now. So A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. What if I go to 4? How many has 4? E has 4. Why? A, B, C, D, E. E has 4 now. How do I know what the next sharp is after my G? G, A, B, C, D. Now I know that F, C, G, and D are my sharps in that order, and always in that order. So when I get to B and I say E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, I can go, oh, B has 5 sharps. How do I know what the next one was? Well, the last one was what? D. So D, E, F, G, A. Okay. B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F, G sharp, A sharp. That means I have 5 flats. So when I play my pattern that I just know now from my scales, that is now B, C sharp, D, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. So you can either ask me how to know the notes on the fretboard or learn the scales, and just when you go through them, intrinsically learn both at the same time. And if you, to boot, you learn 3 things at the same time, which is just looking at these triads like the C, E, and G on the grand staff, you will notice that you have recognition of triads on a piece of paper, and pretty soon you'll realize that almost all music is repetition. So this next measure is going to look exactly like the first measure. So you only really have to read it once. So the first thing you do when you look at a piece of sheet music or practice or you hear anything is you look at what key it's in. You go through the entire piece of music and you see if there's any incidentals, accidentals, something like it's supposed to be in the key of A. There's 3 sharps, but yet the F sharp that you're supposed to be playing is flatted to an F. What they'll do is they'll put a natural note right in front of it, which kind of looks like the pound, which we use for sharp, but it has 2 of the little T's taken off. Kind of looks like a little 1 drop. Anywho, everything that I've spoke about today is basic, but it is extremely tough to understand that when you have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. If you take that 1 and get rid of it and go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, that feeling that is derived out of that is called Dorian, which is a mode that you use over minors. So now knowing that you can do a major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major, you can spell it in every key. C, E, G is a major. Skip chords, then it would be D, F, A, and then E, G, B, and then F, A, C, and then G, B, D. And then you're like, well, how do I know what my diminish is? It's hard. It's only hard if you can't see the triads. And at this point, C major works your triads all the way up. So when you and I have a chord structure, which is based off of a minor third and a major third, you get a major. The next one was based off of that same minor third and major third, but you get a minor tone, then a minor tone, then a major tone, then a minor tone, and then a major tone, then a minor tone, then a diminished tone, and then it resolves to that major. Where I would like to say is if you are interested in taking Zoom lessons over the course of this, Zoom lessons are a little bit different. You don't do them every week, you do them once a month. I give you a list of things to work on. You work on it, you take a video, you send it to me. I do a little critique on it, if you will. Analyze, and I put cross a couple T's, dot a couple I's, and I send it back with you with installations and notes, and then a next phrasing of things to work on for the next month. If that interests you, we could talk story then. I really hope this hit home and that everything I said was clear. If not, you could go up here to the top and you could slow it down or speed it up depending. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play through a couple of these ideas and examples and just show what they are in relative keys. When I have C major, The next I go to a minor, it's going to be D because D comes after C. The next is E minor because my third is always going to be minor in a major scale. That completes my do, re, mi, whole step, whole step. So I've got a C, D minor, E minor. My next is a major fourth. When I'm playing a song like I'm playing a 1-1-1, 4-4, 5-5-5, 4-4, 1-4-5 group. You'll notice after hearing these lessons and seeing these that a lot of the music that you thought was way complicated, like it's not as complicated when you see it as being a D major, a D major sus4, a D major dominant, or D major sus2, a C major with a seventh over the top, moving down just a major scale, right? Then a key change. So pick a hard song, which will get on top of this. Use that C, D, E, F, G, A minor, B diminished, C. Remember that you can work these up the neck, and it does the same thing as long as you can find your triads. Sorry. You'll be fine. The other thing to do is get a little book or a teacher to show you how to do that first scale with your second scale and your third scale. Sorry, that's a minor. And then go into further explanations about these modes. There's 11 other modal structures just in Aeolian, the minor. Gives you such tones as melodic minor or harmonic minor with a flat seven, or augments. Augmented is a form of using your seventh diminished. So our D major 7, D dominant 7 by moving your whole tone all the way down a whole step. If I use this tone as being my resolution to a G, I would consider that to be like an F sharp diminished. But if not, I don't use it as its relative, I use it as its major. So if I had a D7 and I wasn't resolving to a G major, I could have a add super suspense, and then use one of those modal structures with like a to add more suspense modally up the top of it, and then any resolution I really want. Go through these things, find different patterns, and then correlate them to the modal structures. Get a teacher, find a hard song, really work on that, and then as far for the rhythm, subdivisions of that is really interesting. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 for quarters is different than the 1, 2, 3, 4 for whole notes. If you see that, you can hear take these guns from me. I can't use it anymore. See how I influenced that with 16th notes? And then quarters? Again. So in G major, when I go to E minor, that's my relative minor. You'll notice that a lot of tunes use like G to E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I was in the key of C, C to A minor. Then figure out what your 4 is and what your 5 is. So being able to transpose is a necessary tool when you're playing something which is basically tuned to everything else. It's very interesting when you start seeing what you know start progressing and seeing how it correlates. So the cage system hopefully isn't a mystery anymore. The finger scales that we've been doing here probably are a little bit harder, but once you do them every day, practicing the practice of practice becomes second nature. Being able to influence your majors with susses, like a C major sus4 would incorporate a C, D, E, F. So we have our C major. Well, where's our F note? There's one down here, there's one up here, and there's one right here. Well, this one feels fun, so I'm gonna use my pinky. See how that subsequently has a note hovering above where it is? Over the top, yeah? Anywho, I really enjoyed meeting you. I hope this video wasn't too late. I hope everything in here made sense. If it doesn't, put any question you have in the comment section and I will get back to you. If you are interested in doing Zoom lesson, you got my number, 808-896-0770. Give me a buzz. It's a very nice meeting. Aloha.